All right, welcome back for another installment of Pigskin Politics. I'm Brandon.
I am Nick.
All right, and I believe the topic today was underrated teams. You wanted the Falcons. Let's roll with that.
I did want the Falcons, and that's because I think they're one of the most underrated teams, and the reason why, first off, is they had a lot of injuries last year. They had 11 guys that missed several games, 4 guys that ended up the season on IR. One of their most outstanding injuries, I would say, was a running back, Devontae Freeman, who missed several games. They also had Deion Jones, Keanu O'Neal, and several other key pieces in that defense, especially in their backfield. Both their safeties out, linebacker out. That really decimated their defense, and their offense wasn't as good with that.
Yeah, they lost a lot of high-scoring games last year. You got to wonder if their defense kind of let them down because they were putting up points.
It did. And not only that, I think Matt Ryan actually had an outstanding year. He was incredible. He had 35 touchdowns to 7 picks. That's a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He also had nearly 5,000 yards, 4,930, I want to say, around that.
24, but yes.
He was 70 yards shy of 5,000 yards. If Matt Ryan had made it to the playoffs with the Falcons and he made somewhat of a run, whether it be winning a game or two, making it to the NFC Championship game like I had predicted them to do the year before, they would be in consideration for putting Matt Ryan at MVP of the NFL.
Yeah,
he had an incredible year, and no one really thinks about it just because they were 7-9.
Yeah, I mean, and he still probably could have lost to MVP Mahomes, but
sure,
that's a 108 rating per game average. That's phenomenal. I think
he played incredible. I still think Mahomes gets the MVP, but he'd at least be in consideration for it. I would have gave it to him if he would have been in the Super Bowl, you know?
Yeah.
Not only that, their divisional record was 4-2.
Despite going 7-9?
Despite going 7-9, they were 4-2 in the division. They lost to the Saints twice, a Super Bowl caliber Saints team that lost. We know the NFC Championship game with the Rams and controversy, but
we'll save that for later.
We'll save that for later. But yeah, they almost beat them one time. They went to overtime with them once. I don't think they're bad at all. There's no reason whatsoever the Falcons should not be in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and I'd say you're right. That 7-9 record, a lot of people are kind of overlooking them a bit. And like you said, 4-2, and despite going in 7-9, that's a team that at least knows how to play its division even when it's weak.
Exactly.
And they came close with a couple games. Like they could have beat the Eagles week 1. They could have beat the Bengals, the Saints. All those games were 1-score losses. The Cowboys, all very close losses.
Yeah, they lost some close games.
And let's see. Yeah, they were 2 games outside the playoffs, and had they beat the Eagles, they would have been half a game out of that last seed.
I want to say the last time I looked at Las Vegas Super Bowl odds, Atlanta was 14th or 15th. They weren't terrible in odds, but I think there is no reason they shouldn't be back in the playoffs.
Should be a bit higher.
I still think the Saints win the division, but there's no reason they shouldn't be 5th or 6th seed. I thought it was going to be the Saints versus the Falcons in the NFC Championship game last year, but the Falcons just got too injured.
Fair.
Despite the injuries, Matt Ryan still played at a really high level.
Yeah, he's one of the better quarterbacks. I really respect him.
I mean, you can't not deny that. 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, almost 5,000 yards. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like the Falcons are just a powerhouse on offense and kind of failed on defense. And I'd agree with you. They're very underrated in that sense. That kind of rolls into my team, but they kind of got a reverse thing going on. Their offense wasn't very good, but their defense was surprisingly good. And the team I chose was the Tennessee Titans. They also were just like on the cusp of the playoffs, but what was really interesting about them was, did you know they had the 8th overall defense?
No, actually.
That's pretty good, and they also had 7th overall rushing attack. It was, their passing offense really let them down. Their rushing defense was fine. It was middle of the pack, like 18th, but passing offense, they struggled. And I mean, that comes down to Marcus Mariota, I would say. He was out 2 games last year, and I think that kind of let him down. But given all that, they also gave the 3rd fewest in points per game. They actually had a really stout defense, a couple shutouts too.
It sounds like their defense is pretty good given those stats.
Oh, and Yeah, and I really think that a lot of people are overlooking them just because they're in that Colts division and everyone's poised to think the Colts just run away with it again. I was looking at their stuff and had even one more game went the Titans' way or not the Colts' way. That would have been the Titans in that 6th seed.
Sure.
Or, yeah.
Even 4th seed.
Absolutely. They lost one game to the Bills, who actually also had a surprisingly good defense. It was a low-scoring game. Bills won it on a game-winning field goal. Chargers in London, they lost by 1 point, but they failed a 2-point conversion. They could have maybe went to overtime, maybe won that. That could have been the game they needed.
Okay.
And they lost twice to the Colts. Had they got the Colts once, they would have been in the playoffs. Their thing is, the Colts are like their demon. If they can just, sponge that, they're fine. They are winning games against good teams and then, kind of losing a few closer ones to at least not bad teams, Like, they were the team last year that beat the Patriots harder than anyone else, and you can't ignore that.
They did thump the Pats last year.
Oh, yeah.
But don't they normally lose to the Colts?
Exactly. That's why I say, they lost twice there, and they were one game outside of that final wildcard spot. Had they just beat the Colts once, that would have been them. Mariota didn't even play Week 17, and like I said, I'm not sold on Mariota. I even think Tannehill could potentially become the starter at some point this year, but my point is, if they can just beat the Colts, they should be a solid team. If they can win once, I think that
game.
I really think that would skyrocket playoff odds. Will they make it? No. Well, possibly, but
I think the last 3 years they finished 9-7.
Yeah.
Every single year.
They're always
one
on the
time
cusp.
in the playoffs. So just one game could propel them. It's just the only issue I have with the Titans is their quarterback Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's very good.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Just they'd be a little bit more efficient. I mean, they are a good put together team. Did you know they had the 5th fewest in giveaways last year?
Okay, so they protect the ball a lot.
Absolutely. Defense, protect the ball.
How many games did Mariota even miss last year? Because I know he's injured quite often.
If not one, 2 or 1.
I think he got injured in Week 1 against the Dolphins.
No. Well,
he hurt his wrist or something.
Oh, yeah. Briefly.
Came out and
Fair enough.
Came back in or...
Whatever. My point is, I don't think enough people are looking at them, and I think maybe we should just a little bit. A little bit more respect, at least.
Okay.
Right on.
All right, well, that's all the time that we have for this video. The next one's going to be the 2 best and the 2 worst teams that I think and Brandon thinks are going to be in the NFL.
Bit of a debate there. That'll be an interesting one.
It will.
And, yeah, cool.
Have a good day.